The storm was still echoing in Daniel Hart's ears long after the rain had stopped, long after he had tucked his 7-year-old twins into bed and finally allowed himself to exhale. He had spent years running from heartbreak, but nothing prepared him for the moment he opened his creaking front door and found his boss, Victoria Hale, the woman known for her unshakable strength, standing there with tears clinging to her eyelashes like shattered crystals. And when she looked up at him, trembling, whispering, "Am I beautiful?" he felt the world slow down, as if fate was holding its breath, waiting for his answer. He replied softly, instinctively, "You are," before his voice caught in his throat, sensing that there was far more behind her question than he understood. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of emotional stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It means the world to us. Daniel had never imagined his life would unravel to this point. Once, he had been a husband, a dreamer, a young father certain that the future would unfold like a long, sunny road. But fate played games with no mercy. His wife, Anna, had passed away during a routine medical complication when the twins were just toddlers. Overnight, the man who could barely cook an egg became both mother and father, teacher and comforter, guardian and guide. Every day felt like holding up a collapsing roof with nothing but shaking hands. He worked 2 jobs, pushed himself until his body bent under exhaustion, and still, the world kept throwing storms at him. Some nights, he slept sitting up on the worn-out sofa with bills scattered like fallen leaves around him. Yet he never complained. The twins, Lily and Logan, were his heartbeat. For them, he endured every hardship, every lonely night, every moment of fear. Victoria Hale was everything he wasn't: wealthy, powerful, polished, and respected. She moved through the office with quiet authority, her heels clicking like a metronome of confidence. But Daniel had never mistaken her seriousness for cruelty. She was fair, observant, calm under pressure, and he had always admired her from afar, not because of her beauty, but because of the way she looked at people, directly, as if searching for the truth beneath their words. Yet he never dared imagine their worlds colliding outside the office. She was like a high mountain star, beautiful to look at, impossible to reach, but tonight, something was broken in her. She stood on his doorstep shivering despite the warm air, as if she had been walking for miles lost in her thoughts. Daniel gently invited her inside, sensing that she was struggling with something she couldn't yet put into words. She stepped into the tiny living room cluttered with toys, children's drawings, and mismatched furniture. Instead of looking uncomfortable, she gazed around with a fragile softness that surprised him. It was as if she had stepped into a life she once dreamed of but lost long ago. As the twins peeked from the hallway, Victoria knelt down and smiled with a warmth Daniel had never seen at work. Logan offered her his favorite blue dinosaur toy, a gesture he reserved only for those he trusted. Lily curled her small hand around Victoria's wrist as if sensing the sadness she carried. Something in that brief moment unraveled Victoria's emotional walls. Daniel watched her blinking back tears as his children comforted her without knowing why. It struck him then that strength doesn't always look like power. Sometimes it looks like someone trying not to break. While the twins slept, Victoria finally told him the truth. Behind her perfect image, she had been trapped in a long, silent battle. She had survived a toxic marriage that drained years from her spirit, a relationship that left her questioning her worth, her identity, and her beauty. People saw her success, her position, her polished appearance, but no one saw the scars that never healed. Her husband, now ex, had emotionally broken her, leaving her with a question that haunted her reflection every night: am I beautiful? Am I enough? Tonight, after a painful confrontation with him, she couldn't bear to sit alone in her empty penthouse. Her feet had led her to the only place that felt safe: Daniel's presence, his gentleness, the quiet dignity she had always admired in him without fully realizing it. Daniel listened, stunned, realizing that the woman he admired for her strength had been fighting her own invisible wars. He saw the vulnerability behind her eyes, the exhaustion, the longing to feel seen beyond her role or reputation. He sat beside her on the couch, not touching, but close enough that she felt supported. He spoke quietly about loss, about rebuilding from dust, about learning to find beauty in the broken pieces of life. He told her how every day he questioned whether he was enough for his children, whether he was doing this parenting alone thing right. And then he told her the truth he had held inside since the moment he opened the door. She was beautiful, not because of her face, or her clothes, or her success, but because she stood in front of her pain instead of running from it. The night stretched on as they talked, their stories intertwining like threads meant to meet. Slowly, something changed between them. It wasn't romance, not yet, it was recognition. Two wounded souls realizing they weren't alone. Victoria looked at him as if seeing him for the first time, not as her employee but as a man who carried more strength in his quiet sacrifices than anyone she had ever known. Over the next days and weeks, Victoria visited often, sometimes bringing groceries, sometimes bringing toys for the twins, sometimes bringing nothing but her company and her fragile attempts at healing. Daniel's home became a refuge for her, not because it was tidy or luxurious, but because it was real. Here, she could laugh without judgment, cry without shame, sit with the twins on the floor drawing messy rainbows. She blossomed slowly, like winter finally giving way to spring, but not everyone approved. Rumors began at the office. Whispers followed Daniel in the hallways. People questioned his motives, hers, the power dynamic, the blurred lines. Daniel feared he would lose his job. Victoria feared she was causing him damage. She pulled away, convinced it was better to preserve his stability than let him get caught in her storm. But the twins felt her absence instantly. Lily cried at night asking why Miss Victoria wasn't coming. Logan refused to play with the blue dinosaur anymore. One night, after days of distance, Victoria stood again on Daniel's doorstep. But this time she wasn't trembling, she was determined. She told him that she was tired of living for other people's opinions. Tired of choosing loneliness because it looked safer. She wanted to fight for the people who made her feel human again. And she wanted to apologize to the twins for disappearing. Daniel felt an overwhelming wave of emotion hearing her speak with such honesty and courage. It was then he realized how deeply she had become part of their lives, and perhaps, unknowingly, part of his heart. As she stepped inside, the twins ran to her with unfiltered joy. Lily hugged her tightly, chanting her name like a melody. Logan placed the blue dinosaur in her hands again, as if restoring a bond that had never truly broken. Victoria's eyes filled with tears, and this time when she asked Daniel, "Do you really think I'm beautiful?" he didn't pause, didn't hesitate, didn't struggle. He simply nodded with quiet certainty, knowing she wasn't asking about her appearance, she was asking if she mattered. And he answered with a sincerity that reached straight into her heart. If this story touched your heart even a little, please don't forget to like the video, share it so others can feel it too, and subscribe for more emotional stories just like this one. Your support truly means everything, and before we end, tell us in the comments, what part of the story moved you the most? We would love to hear your thoughts. In the end, as Victoria sat on the couch with the twins leaning against her and Daniel watching them with a soft, hopeful smile, the world outside seemed quieter, gentler, almost forgiving. For the first time in a long time, none of them felt alone. They realized that beauty wasn't in perfection, it was in healing, connection, second chances, and the courage to stand in front of your scars and still choose love.